Hello guys, welcome to BT Screen. Now we gonna show you 50 best series you can watch on Netflix today. Let's get started. Money Heist. Set in Madrid, a mysterious man known as the Professor recruits a group of 8 people who choose city names as their aliases to carry out an ambitious plan that involves entering the Royal Mint of Spain and escaping with 984 million euros. After taking 67 people hostage inside the mint, the team plans to remain inside for 11 days to print the money as they deal with elite police forces. In the events following the initial heist, the group's members are forced out of hiding and prepare for a second heist, this time on the Bank of Spain, as they again deal with hostages and police forces. Dark. When 2 children go missing in a small German town, its sinful past is exposed along with the double lives and fractured relationships that exist among 4 families as they search for the kids. The mystery drama series introduces an intricate puzzle filled with twists that includes a web of curious characters, all of whom have a connection to the town's troubled history whether they know it or not. The story includes supernatural elements that tie back to the same town in 1986. Dark represents the first German original series produced for Netflix. Black Mirror. Black Mirror is a British anthology television series created by Charlie Brooker. Individual episodes explore a diversity of genres, but most are near-future dystopias utilizing a science fiction technology, a type of speculative fiction. The series is based on the Twilight Zone and uses technology to comment on contemporary social issues. Most episodes are written by Brooker, with heavy involvement by the executive producer Annabel Jones. 13 Reasons Why. Newcomer Catherine Langford plays the role of Hannah, a young woman who takes her own life. 2 weeks after her tragic death, a classmate named Clay finds a mysterious box on his porch. Inside the box are recordings made by Hannah, on whom Clay had a crush, in which she explains the 13 reasons why she chose to commit suicide. If Clay decides to listen to the recordings, he will find out if and how he made the list. This intricate and heart-wrenching tale is told through Clay and Hannah's dual narratives. The Witcher. The Witcher is a fantasy drama web television series created by Lauren Schmidt-Hisrich for Netflix. It is based on the book series of the same name. The Witcher follows the story of Geralt of Rivia, a solitary monster hunter who struggles to find his place in a world where people often prove more wicked than monsters and beasts. But when destiny hurtles him toward a powerful sorceress and a young princess with a special gift, the 3 must learn to navigate independently the increasingly volatile continent. The end of the fucking world. James is a 17-year-old who believes he is a psychopath. He kills animals as a hobby, but grows bored with the practice. He decides he wants to try killing a human. He settles on Alyssa, a mouthy, rebellious 17-year-old classmate with issues of her own. She proposes they run away together, hoping for an adventure away from her turbulent home life, and James agrees with the intention of finding an opportunity to kill her. They embark on a road trip across England and begin to develop a relationship after a series of mishaps. However, in Series 2 they grow distant and Alyssa proposes to another man. But someone thirsty for revenge for what they did hunts them down, bringing them together once again. The Umbrella Academy. The Umbrella Academy is set in a universe where 43 women around the world give birth simultaneously at noon on October 1, 1989, despite none of them showing any sign of pregnancy until labor began. 7 of the children are adopted by eccentric billionaire Sir Reginald Hargreaves and turned into a superhero team that he calls the Umbrella Academy. While putting 6 of his children to work fighting crime, Reginald keeps Vanya apart from her siblings' activities as she supposedly demonstrates no powers of her own. Breaking Bad. Set in Albuquerque, New Mexico, between 2008 and 2010, Breaking Bad follows Walter White, a meek high school chemistry teacher who transforms into a ruthless player in the local methamphetamine drug trade, driven by a desire to financially provide for his family after being diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Initially making only small batches of meth with his former student Jesse Pinkman in a rolling meth lab, Walter and Jesse eventually expand to make larger batches of a special blue meth that is incredibly pure and creates high demand. Walter takes on the name Heisenberg to mask his identity. Because of his drug-related activities, Walter eventually finds himself at odds with his family, the Drug Enforcement Administration, through his brother-in-law Hank Schrader, the local gangs, the Mexican drug cartels and their regional distributors, putting his and his family's lives at risk. Better Call Saul. Before Saul Goodman, he was Jimmy McGill. And if you're calling Jimmy, you're in real trouble. The prequel to Breaking Bad follows small-time attorney Jimmy McGill as he transforms into Walter White's morally challenged lawyer, Saul Goodman. The 100. When nuclear Armageddon destroys civilization on Earth, the only survivors are those on the 12 international space stations in orbit at the time. 3 generations later, the 4,000 survivors living on a space ark of linked stations see their resources dwindle and face draconian measures established to ensure humanity's future. Desperately looking for a solution, the Ark's leaders send 100 juvenile prisoners back to the planet to test its habitability. Having always lived in space, the exiles find the planet fascinating and terrifying, but with the fate of the human race in their hands, they must forge a path into the unknown. Lucifer. This series follows Lucifer, the original fallen angel, who has become dissatisfied with his life in hell. After abandoning his throne and retiring to Los Angeles, Lucifer indulges in his favorite things: women, wine and song, until a murder takes place outside of his upscale nightclub. For the first time in billions of years, the murder awakens something unfamiliar in Lucifer's soul that is eerily similar to compassion and sympathy. Lucifer is faced with another surprise when he meets an intriguing homicide detective named Chloe, who appears to possess an inherent goodness, unlike the worst of humanity, to which he is accustomed. Suddenly, Lucifer starts to wonder if there is hope for his soul. Stranger Things. Stranger Things is a television format series created by the Duffer Brothers. The show takes place in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana in the early to mid-1980s. The first season revolves around the disappearance of Will Byers, while the second season explores the repercussions of the mysterious events of first season. The third season focuses on forces of evil that are new. The upcoming fourth season will explore newer regions outside of Hawkins, like California. Kingdom. The deceased king rises and a mysterious plague begins to spread. The prince must face a new breed of enemies to unveil the evil scheme and save his people. Peaky Blinders. Britain is a mixture of despair and hedonism in 1919, in the aftermath of the Great War. Returning soldiers, newly minted revolutions and criminal gangs are fighting for survival in a nation rocked by economic upheaval. One of the most powerful gangs of the time is the Peaky Blinders, run by returning war hero Thomas Shelby and his family. But Thomas has bigger ambitions than just running the streets. When a crate of guns goes missing, he recognizes an opportunity to advance in the world because crime may pay, but legitimate business pays better. Trying to rid Britain of its crime is Inspector Chester Campbell, who arrives from Belfast to try to achieve that goal. Riverdale. After the death of one of the rich and popular Blossom twins on the 4th of July, the small town of Riverdale investigates the murder. The series starts in September, the beginning of a new school year, that brings with it new students, relationships, and reveals the mysteries of the past 4th of July. Elite. Las Encinas is the most exclusive school in the country, where the elite sends their children to study. 3 working-class teens have just been admitted as new students after an earthquake destroyed their school. The clash between those who have everything and those who have nothing to lose creates a perfect storm that ends in a murder. Who committed the crime? Narcos. Narcos tells the true life story of the growth and spread of cocaine drug cartels across the globe and attendant efforts of law enforcement to meet them head-on in brutal, bloody conflict. It centers around the notorious Colombian cocaine kingpin Pablo Escobar and Steve Murphy, a DEA agent sent to Colombia on a U.S. mission to capture him and ultimately kill him. Narcos Mexico. Narcos Mexico exploring the origins of the modern drug war by going back to its roots, beginning at a time when the Mexican trafficking world was a loose and disorganized confederation of independent growers and dealers. Witness the rise of the Guadalajara cartel in the 1980s as Felix Gallardo takes the helm, unifying traffickers in order to build an empire. When DEA agent Kiki Camarena moves his wife and young son from California to Guadalajara to take on a new post, he quickly learns that his assignment will be more challenging than he ever could have imagined. As Kiki garners intelligence on Felix and becomes more entangled in his mission, a tragic chain of events unfold, affecting the drug trade and the war against it for years to come. I am not okay with this. Sydney is a teenage girl navigating the trials and tribulations of high school while dealing with the complexities of her family, her budding sexuality, and mysterious superpowers just beginning to awaken deep within her. Never Have I Ever. Never Have I Ever is an American comedy drama series focusing on the life of an Indian American teen who seeks popularity at her high school. On my block, On My Block follows a quartet of bright, street-savvy friends who are navigating their way through high school, including all the triumph, pain and newness they experience along the way. Lifelong friendships are tested as Mons, Ruby, Jamal, and Caesar confront the challenges of adolescence and life in their predominantly Hispanic and Black neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles in this coming-of-age comedy series. Chilling adventure of Sabrina. It is a dark coming-of-age story that includes horror, fear and witchcraft. Sabrina Spellman must reconcile her dual nature as a half-witch, half-mortal, while fighting the evil forces that threaten her, her family, and the daylight world humans inhabit. Locke and Key. After their father is murdered under mysterious circumstances, the three Locke siblings and their mother move into their ancestral home, Key House, which they discover is full of magical keys that may be connected to their father's death. As the Locke children explore the different keys and their unique powers, a mysterious demon awakens and will stop at nothing to steal them. Locke and Key is a coming-of-age mystery about love, loss, and the unshakable bonds that define family. Arcane. The delicate balance between the rich city of Piltover and the seedy underbelly of Zon. Tensions between these city-states boil over with the creation of Hextech, a way for any person to control magical energy in Piltover, and in Zon, a new drug called Shimmer transforms humans into monsters. The rivalry between the city splits families and friends as Arcane brings life to the relationships that shape some of League of Legends' famous champions, including Vi, Jinx, Caitlyn, Jace, and Victor. Altered Carbon. More than 300 years in the future, society has been transformed by new technology, leading to human bodies being interchangeable and death no longer being permanent. Takeshi Kovacs is the only surviving soldier of a group of elite interstellar warriors who were defeated in an uprising against the New World Order. His mind was imprisoned for centuries until impossibly wealthy businessman Lawrence Bancroft offers him the chance to live again. Kovacs will have to do something for Bancroft, though, if he wants to be resurrected. Bancroft's request of Kovacs is to solve a murder. Altered Carbon is based on Richard K. Morgan's cyberpunk noir novel of the same name. Ozark. This drama series stars Jason Bateman as Marty Bird, a financial planner who relocates his family from Chicago to a summer resort community in the Ozarks. With wife Wendy and their 2 kids in tow, Marty is on the move after a money laundering scheme goes wrong, forcing him to pay off a substantial debt to a Mexican drug lord in order to keep his family safe. While the Bird's fate hangs in the balance, the dire circumstances force the fractured family to reconnect. Sense8. Sense8 tells the story of 8 strangers. Each individual is from a different culture and part of the world. In the aftermath of a tragic death they all experience through what they perceive as dreams or visions, they suddenly find themselves growing mentally and emotionally connected. While trying to figure how and why this connection happened and what it means, a mysterious man named Jonas tries to help the 8. Meanwhile, another stranger called Whispers attempts to hunt them down, using the same Sense8 power to gain full access to his Sense8's mind after looking into their eyes. Each episode reflects the views of the characters interacting with each other while delving deeper into their backgrounds and what sets them apart and brings them together with the others. The first season follows the story of Joe Goldberg, a bookstore manager in New York, who upon meeting Guinevere Beck, an aspiring writer, becomes infatuated with her. He feeds his toxic obsession using social media and other technology to track her presence and remove obstacles to their romance. In the second season, Joe Goldberg moves from New York to Los Angeles to escape his past and starts over with a new identity. When he meets avid chef Love Quinn, Joe begins falling into his old patterns of obsession and violence. As Joe attempts to forge a new love in the City of Angels, he strives to make his relationship with Love succeed at all costs to avoid the fate of his past romantic endeavors. In the third season, Joe and Love are married and raising their newborn son, Henry, in the Californian suburb of Madre Linda. As their relationship dynamic takes a new turn, Joe continues to repeat the cycle of obsession with a burgeoning interest in Natalie, the next-door neighbor. This time, Love will flip the script to ensure that her dream of having the perfect family will not be torn away so easily by Joe's compulsive actions. Sex education. Socially awkward high school student Otis may not have much experience in the lovemaking department, but he gets good guidance on the topic in his personal sex ed course because he's living with Mom Jean, who is a sex therapist. Being surrounded by manuals, videos and tediously open conversations about sex, Otis has become a reluctant expert on the subject. When his classmates learn about his home life, Otis decides to use his insider knowledge to improve his status at school, so he teams with whip-smart bad girl Maeve to set up an underground sex therapy clinic to deal with their classmates' problems. But through his analysis of teenage sexuality, Otis realizes that he may need some therapy of his own. Control-Z. When a hacker begins releasing student secrets to the entire high school, the socially isolated but observant Sophia works to uncover the hacker's identity. Into the night. When radiation from the sun causes a global disaster on Earth, survivors on an overnight flight from Brussels race from city to city trying to stay ahead of the sun's rays by remaining in the cover of night. And with an E. This reimagining of the classic book and film is a coming-of-age story about a young orphan who is seeking love, acceptance and her place in the world. Amibeth McNulty stars as Anne, a 13-year-old who has endured an abusive childhood in orphanages in the homes of strangers. In the late 1890s, Anne is mistakenly sent to live with aging siblings, Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, who live on Prince Edward Island. Anne, who proves to be uniquely spirited, imaginative and smart, transforms the lives of Marilla, Matthew and everyone else in their small town. Prison Break. An innocent man is framed for the homicide of the vice president's brother and scheduled to be executed at a supermax penitentiary. Thus it's up to his younger brother to save him with his genius scheme, install himself in the same prison by holding up a bank, and, as the final month ticks away, launch the escape plan step by step to break the both of them out, with his full-body tattoo acting as his guide, a tattoo which hides the layout of the prison facility and necessary clues vital to the escape. Squid Game. A story of people who fail at life for various reasons, but suddenly receive a mysterious invitation to participate in a survival game to win more than $38 million. The game takes place at an isolated island, and the participants are locked up until there is a final winner. The story will incorporate popular children's games from the 1970s and 1980s of Korea, such as Squid Game, literal translation of its Korean name, which is a type of tag where offense and defense use a squid-shaped board drawn in the dirt. Lupin. Inspired by the adventures of Arsène Lupin, gentleman thief Arsène Diop sets out to avenge his father for an injustice inflicted by a wealthy family. Alice in the Borderland. Arisu is a man without much money or luck. He is unemployed currently as well. Out of the blue, a blinding light engulfs him one day, in whose aftermath the city of Tokyo has lost all its inhabitants save Arisu and two friends. This is a dangerous and potentially fatal game of survival now in which they are forced to take part. Mindhunter. Two FBI agents, fighting the departmental stigma of backroom boys, those who try to complicate the status quo of simple means, motive, opportunity, or MMO of crime solving with academics, work to develop an innovative investigative field incorporating psychology, anthropology, and sociology as a method to reveal the motive. They acknowledge classic crime-solving MMO is no longer sufficient because criminality is becoming more complicated as motive graduates from need and greed to inexplicable and irrational reasons. They theorize applying deeper psychological evaluation will posit new questions. Simply asking why will lead to the who. This series focuses on the development by two men, two agents, of a new criminal field, and does so through storylines of visiting the sociopathic mind. The Haunting of Hill House explores a group of siblings who, as children, grew up in what would go on to become the most famous haunted house in the country. Now adults, and forced back together in the face of tragedy, the family must finally confront the ghosts of their past, some of which still lurk in their minds, while others may actually be stalking the shadows of Hill House. All of Us Are Dead. It was a normal school day for the students of a Korean high school, until a student returns from the school science lab, infected by an unknown virus. As the infection spreads out of school and throughout the peninsula, the military desperately interrogates the psychotic science teacher who started it all, while his students struggle to survive until help arrives. The Queen's Gambit. 9-year-old orphan Beth Harmon is quiet, sullen, and by all appearances unremarkable. That is, until she plays her first game of chess. Her senses grow sharper, her thinking clearer, and for the first time in her life she feels herself fully in control. By the age of 16, she's competing for the US Open Championships. But as Beth hones her skills on the professional circuit, the stakes get higher, her isolation grows more frightening, and the thought of escape becomes all the more tempting. The Punisher. After exacting revenge on those responsible for the death of his wife and children, Frank Castle uncovers a conspiracy that runs far deeper than New York's criminal underworld. Now known throughout the city as the Punisher, he must discover the truth about injustices that affect more than his family alone. Orange is the New Black. Piper Chapman is a public relations executive with a career and a fiancé when her past suddenly catches up to her. In her mid-30s, she is sentenced to spend time in a minimum security women's prison in New York for her association with a drug runner 10 years earlier. This Netflix original series is based on the book of the same title. Forced to trade power suits for Prison Orange, Chapman makes her way through the correction system and adjusts to life behind bars, making friends with the many eccentric, unusual and unexpected people she meets. Daredevil. The first in a planned series of shows detailing the Marvel Universe, Daredevil follows Matt Murdock, attorney by day and vigilante by night. Blinded in an accident as a child, Murdock uses his heightened senses as Daredevil to fight crime on the streets of New York after the sun goes down. While Murdock's day job requires him to believe in the criminal justice system, his alter ego does not follow suit, leading him to take the law into his own hands to protect his Hell's Kitchen neighborhood and the surrounding communities. House of Cards. Majority House Whip Francis Underwood takes you on a long journey as he exacts his vengeance on those he feels wronged him, that is, his own cabinet members including the President of the United States himself. Dashing, cunning, methodical and vicious, Frank Underwood along with his equally manipulative yet ambiguous wife, Claire, take Washington by storm through climbing the hierarchical ladder to power in this Americanized recreation of the BBC series of the same name. Bridgerton. Follows Daphne Bridgerton, the eldest daughter of the powerful Bridgerton family as she makes her debut onto Regency London's competitive marriage market. Hoping to follow in her parents' footsteps and find a match sparked by true love, Daphne's prospects initially seem to be unrivaled. But as her older brother begins to rule out her potential suitors, the high society scandal sheet written by the mysterious Lady Whistledown casts aspersions on Daphne. Enter the highly desirable and rebellious Duke of Hastings, committed bachelor and the catch of the season for the debutantes' mamas. Despite proclaiming that they want nothing the other has to offer, their attraction is undeniable, and sparks fly as they find themselves engaged in an increasing battle of wits while navigating society's expectations for their future. Emily in Paris. Emily, an ambitious 20-something marketing executive from Chicago, unexpectedly lands her dream job in Paris when her company acquires a French luxury marketing company, and she is tasked with revamping their social media strategy. Emily's new life in Paris is filled with intoxicating adventures and surprising challenges as she juggles winning over her work colleagues, making friends, and navigating new romances. How to sell drugs online fast. To win back the love of his life, a high school student and his best friend launch Europe's largest online drug business from their teenage bedroom. Made. Inspired by the powerful New York Times best-selling memoir Made, Hard Work, Low Pay, and a Mother's Will to Survive by Stephanie Land, Made will chronicle a single mother who turns to housekeeping to barely make ends meet as she battles against poverty, homelessness, and bureaucracy. Told primarily through her point of view, Made will be a beautiful, alive, gritty, and inspiring exploration of poverty in America. The Last Dance. Charting the rise of the 1990s Chicago Bulls, led by Michael Jordan, one of the most notable dynasties in sports history. Sweet Tooth. 10 years ago the Great Crumble wreaked havoc on the world and led to the mysterious emergence of hybrids, babies born part human, part animal. Unsure if hybrids are the cause or result of the virus, many humans fear and hunt them. After a decade of living safely in his secluded forest home, a sheltered hybrid deer boy named Gus unexpectedly befriends a wandering loner named Jeopard. Together they set out on an extraordinary adventure across what's left of America in search of answers about Gus's origins, Jeopard's past, and the true meaning of home. But their story is full of unexpected allies and enemies, and Gus quickly learns the lush, dangerous world outside the forest is more complex than he ever could have imagined. There is 50 best series you can watch on Netflix. Please subscribe to our channel for more movie content.